Hello and welcome to my studio. In this class today I'm going to show you how you can rework an old painting. If you're anything like me, you have lots of paintings that you've started and then maybe just lost interest in and put them away. And I found a painting I'd done, I can't even remember when, and it's on really lovely thick watercolour paper. But the painting, I can't remember when I did it. But anyway, I thought it would be interesting to rework it to see what happens. And it's actually kind of an interesting experiment because you've already got a foundation to your painting. So let's see what new life we can give it. So I'll get started and go through the process with you. So this is the painting and I'm covering it in gesso, white gesso, which is wonderful because it covers so well. And I'm using a trowel to spread it and not cover everything, but just give it some, seeing the texture through the back of it and playing. Now my palette is a phthalo blue, cerulean blue, and I've got some yellow and some yellow ochre. So I'm kind of mixing those colours in different ways, using all of them. And I love using this scraper. I'm using lots of different tools in this painting because it's an experiment, and I love sort of seeing what the different tools will do. So, if you've got some at home, just have a play and see what happens. The trowel is kind of a new thing that I've just recently got and I'm really enjoying using it. I'm using also the back of my brush to draw into the painting and just sort of feeling my way. And I think that's the thing about the abstract painting. You want to be able to kind of feel where it wants to go and be open-minded, not necessarily have results in mind, just enjoy the process of painting and experimenting and seeing what might happen. Now I'm adding some black into it. Now, one of the most important things about a painting is that it has really strong contrasts. The strong contrasts, bring the painting alive. And you want to make some differences. You don't want it all the same tone value. You don't want it all the same, thickness. You want sort of different textures coming through, thin textures, thick textures. I'm using a roller here, and the roller is a interesting tool to use because it sort of smooths into the paint and then you can scratch back into it. So I kind of like using that too, and then obviously back to the brush. But you want to be kind of feeling about where do I want the viewer's eye to go. You don't want it just all the same across the paper. You want some really strong differences and positioned so your eye travels around the painting and finds it interesting to be looking at. So, and it's lovely to be building up these layers because I've got, of course, the layers underneath and you can still see a little bit of it, not very much, but a little bit underneath. And it really gives the painting some depth. And that's what we're always kind of looking for in a painting. Interest, differences, and depth. And your values, you don't want it all the same value. You want some darks, you want some lights, you want some mid-tones. And when you're experimenting, you can see what might happen with that and experiment with that. Here I'm putting a little bit of yellow ochre. It's not quite complementary, but I wanted some difference in colour, so it's not all just blue. And I'm mixing then a little bit of the ochre with some white. So I've got some different textures of white and of light blues because that's mixed with the white and the ochre mixed with the white. And as I keep going over it, those kind of different colors are coming through, and it makes it really interesting. So you can see here some of the textures that I'm getting. I'm now going to glaze it with some orange, and I love glazing with color because again you give a painting some depth, because if you glaze and then you go over some of the areas with thicker paint, you give the painting a new dimension. You know, it pushes you back and brings you forward. So I love glazing with different colors, and because this is blue, I wanted to do something with the orange and then obviously paint back into it. You know, you can take it as far as you want. You just sort of stop when you feel happy with it. And oftentimes you think, oh yeah, it's finished. And then you'll look at it at the next day and realize, actually, you know what, I could do some more to that. So you need to sort of play and see how it feels. You know, painting is about how it feels and how you sit with it and your experience of creating. And that's one of the wonderful things about painting, in my opinion. You know, you can just get lost in it and enjoy it because you're making something completely unique to you. And, you know, no one else can paint like you can. And I think that's just absolutely wonderful. I love that. So the painting is making a little bit of progress now. I'm doing some different things with it, and not quite there yet. A little bit of way to go. So I want to let some of it dry and then come back to it, which we will do a little bit later. But we're getting there. And, you know, seeing now, looking a little bit now at composition, you know, where is the eye going from the corner into the painting, round the painting. So you can see I'm doing some darks against the lights. And of course, those are contrasts and different saturation of color. I'm making this center bit with the blues really saturated and dark, but not flat. It's got blacks and the different blues in it. It's got the phthalo blue and the cerulean blue, and those mixed, so it helps to harmonize the painting and keep it held together, so it's not just out of the tube. You're mixing it with the other colors that you're using, which brings a real harmony into your painting. So there's a few things to think about, you know, your composition, where the eye is going, where your contrasts are, how the saturation is, and the thickness of the paint and your textures, and, you know, adding some little color just as sparks of interest. And so, you know, as you start to progress and it starts to come together, those are the things that you can think about. The rest of it is going with the flow and seeing how it feels and enjoying it. And then you can add the finishing touches, and but not the detail to start with. You put the detail in later. I'm going to show you when we've actually finished the painting how we can add some detail once you've had chance to look at it and process what's going on. So now just sort of, I'm scratching into the paint, and because it's really nice and thick, I'm getting some of the colour from underneath in. I'm also kind of putting some black on the end of my brush and scraping some of that in too. So I've got some subtle lines happening, which again, you know, all creates an interest and fascination. And whatever you don't like I didn't like that little bit there, you can paint over and, you know, move on to the next bit. So obviously this is speeded up. It would have been a long video otherwise. So I'm drawing a straight line here with my little window cleaner squeegee thing, and just to kind of give an illusion. So I've nearly finished this painting now, but I still want it to have an extra oomph of something. So I'm looking at all the blue. I've got some of the yellow ochre in here, but I feel as if it needs a little bit of orange, which is the complementary of the blue. So I've just mixed a little orange here, and I'm going to add some of that just in the little areas, because it just needs a little bit of a lift. And you know, we're looking for some really interesting focal points and to give the painting a real zuzz. So I've got some very bright orange here. I'm going to try it just in some small areas, and you can see, hopefully, straight away that that's helpful. And I think what I'm going to do is water this down and just put a little in here, and I'm going to rub it in with the tissue. I don't want it too much. I just want a few little highlights. So I'm sort of like glazing this little area here, and let's go back over that, because it's so, you know, just little bits will give it that little bit of extra, and that's what we're always looking for in a painting, the little sparks of extra to make it look really interesting and to draw you in. So just putting that little bit of orange in has done the trick. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to glaze it. So I've got some golden satin glazing liquid. So I'm going to mix that, and then we'll put the glaze on top. That helps in many different ways. It helps in preserving the paint. It makes the paint look that much richer and interesting. So let me do that, and then it'll be finished. So I've put a little bit of the glaze in this little pot, and I've got a nice soft brush, and literally we're just going to go over it. It might be 2 glazes. I'm going to see how I feel once it's done. You know, I like the satin glaze or gloss glaze even. That's really nice. And I'm just doing a very light coat of it. And it's a lovely way to finish a painting. And, you know, really bring the colour out. So we've done the glazing with colour, with some paint, but now we're actually doing the glazing with glazing medium. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this little demonstration of, you know, reworking an old painting. You know, if you've got things lying around, it's always so interesting when you you know, you've done quite a few paintings in between, so you've learned quite a lot of different things, and then to go back to an old painting that, you know, I can't remember when I did that one, it may be even a year ago. You know, it can take on a whole new life. There we go. Come down to the bottom. This is going to have to dry for a while. You know, it's good to leave glazes to really dry. And it's got a nice sort of finish on it. So there we are. So I'll turn it round this way so you can see it that way. And who would have thought that it's going to turn into sort of like a tree landscapey type feel. It could be anything really, different ways round. But you can see by using, you know, all the different tools and playing and experimenting, all the different things you can do to really bring an old painting to life. And if you'd like to learn more about abstract painting, I have a lot of very interesting, informative, fun classes online on my website at joyfaheyartist.com. I'll leave the link below, and do go and have a look at those. And if you enjoyed watching this video, please like and subscribe if you like to see more demonstrations, and share if you've got someone who you think might be interested. So take care and happy painting.